So one thing that always drives me crazy about the Overton window and the hypocrisy of the electability argument is that you always hear this all the time. You hear anchors say this, and this is something that repeated all the time on cable news, that you have voters that won't vote for Bernie Sanders because he is too far left. And those people are held to high esteem. Those people are respected. Their opinion are respected. Democrats treat them with a lot of respect. But then you hear how they react to someone who say they won't vote for Joe Biden because he's too far right. And this is why voting for the lesser of two evils don't work, because only thing that happens when you vote for lesser of two evils is that the Overton window continues to move towards the right. So if you don't hold your ground at your center, the party will continue to drift towards the right, toward the corporate power and corporate money, and it will keep moving over, and they will use the corporate power candidate winning as an example of why progressives can't win, and that's why it's not a good strategy to do that. So you hear the response when I say I won't vote for someone who's that far right, and Joe Biden, and you hear it now with the outrage towards Joe Rogan, who honestly, when I listened to his criticism, it was funny, but it wasn't even that harsh of a criticism, because Joe Rogan was saying essentially what everyone has been saying, except Democratic partisan hats, because it's obvious that Joe Biden has serious mental cognitive decline, and I actually believe the Joe Biden campaign had an amazing strategy, because they was keeping Joe Biden away from the cameras. They had a strategy of minimum exposure, even in the middle of this crisis, where you would think that the Democratic frontrunner will make a distinction between himself and the president, Donald Trump, and you see this has been a disaster for the Democrats, because Joe Biden's inability to lead on this issue, and even getting outflanked on the left by Donald Trump, with Donald Trump endorsing Medicare for all who have COVID, right? Um, you see that the Democratic, even people that support the Democratic establishment, they starting to get buyer's remorse, where they are now considering doing a swap out between Joe Biden and Andrew Cuomo, because they see his weakness in the general election, and if he's fading this bad already, wait until the actual general election will start. So Joe Rogan, his criticism of Joe Biden was really mild. He pretty much just said that Joe Biden's cabinet will be running his administration, because he's clearly now all the way there, which is not even rude, because I think we're the nice guys, because if you see what Joe Biden and their campaign doing to Joe Biden, that's easily elder abuse, because he clearly is sick, and it's not even fun to really talk about it, because he's just a guy who's struggling, and people who pretend that it's a stutter are ridiculous, because Joe Biden was extremely slick talker in his entire career. He roasted Paul Ryan during their debate, and Paul Ryan not even a bad conservative debater, but Joe Biden completely dismantled him, dismantled Sarah Palin. Even though a lot of people forget, in that debate he said he spoke out against gay marriage. Um, he took a lot of conservative positions in that debate as well, which is another reason why I don't like him. But he actually was really good at debating. He always was a really smooth talker. Even if you look at his interviews in 2012, he was always a good talker. But now it's a complete. He can't talk. He had a wire in his ear when he was doing his live stream. He literally had to look at his notes. He can't free form a thought. It's completely obvious, and that's why they've been keeping him as much as away from the camera as possible. And every interview is a softball interview. So when I heard Joe Rogan criticism, I just thought his criticism is what everyone else is seeing, right? He ain't talking about. He didn't bring up the fact that Joe Biden is a war criminal. He didn't bring up Tara Reid, right? He didn't say what I would say. He ain't say that. He didn't say Joe Biden's a Harvey Weinstein Democrat, which is why I've been saying I'm gonna keep that up until the general election, because it's true. Like literally, their campaign advisor is Anita Dunn. You got Alyssa Milano, who got ties with CAA, and who was an early defender of Harvey Weinstein. They all on board of Joe Biden. So he not even going. He didn't go with hard truths against Biden. But you see that there was a massive meltdown um, from the establishment left. You had Bakari sellout, as I like to call him, was like, "Yo, I've been told you about Joe Rogan, man." This is the issue and they were trying to deflect the blame to Bernie Sanders. They'll say, "Yo, there's something that Bernie Sanders is saying. There's something about his rhetoric that's making people Bernie or bust." I was like, no, these are independents. These are people that you guys said you want to win over. Because what we hear my entire life, they said we need to win over young people and we need to win over independents and people that wouldn't usually vote for Democrats. And you have Bernie Sanders who does exactly that. Even with Joe Biden leading this election, Joe Biden lost every single state, including my state in Missouri, by independent voters and young people. He only won independent voters in 3 states. They were all southern states they're not going to win in the first place. So you have Joe Biden who has a massive electability issue, but that's Bernie Sanders' fault. I keep reading article after article where they're saying that Bernie Sanders should drop out and help Joe Biden win. Why? I thought Joe Biden was the electable one. And the unfortunate thing, Bernie will if he doesn't win. But if Bernie Sanders had no obligation, just like the Warren supporters were saying, Bernie Sanders doesn't owe you shit. He doesn't. If Biden is a weak candidate, he's a weak candidate. Now you see him lashing out against everyone who is saying just what everyone else is saying who's not the Democrat establishment. Because people seem to forget that there's more independents than there are Democrats. 41% of the country are independents, like myself. 29% of the country are Democrats. So, and this is why you see them get their ass kicked almost every damn election. 2018 was a good year because that was a Trump referendum, and you're not going to hear me even hint that Donald Trump is a good president. So that was a bad referendum on him. But in 2016, they lost to a fucking reality game show host, joke Donald Trump, and they was wiped out in the Senate and the House. And Barack Obama lost over 1,000 seats at his time as president because they do not understand that there's more independents than Democrats. They try to keep everything as a club, and they act like if you're not part of the club, there's something wrong with you. No, you motherfuckers are the minority. You're supposed to win us over. And there's something that they have completely forgotten, and that's why that electability argument is strong. And the people that say, they were like, well, if Bernie Sanders is most electable, why are you losing the primary? For one, there's been massive election fraud and voter suppression. Knowing that, most independents do not vote in primaries. You have independents that will vote in the general election. And facts show that the youth turnout is higher in the general election than it is in the primary. So anyone you hear saying that argument is being intellectually dishonest on his own face. So I just think it's super funny that Democrats always lash out against anyone who challenge their narrative. So you have one group of people, the boomers that watch MSNBC and CNN, who has been repeating for months that Joe Biden is the most electable. But everyone else is looking at him and they just see a senile old warmonger that they would never vote for.